This is a Viva PR podcast.
Where businesses tend to go wrong is really focusing in on the direct customer and not appreciating what the end customer wants and needs. Everyone has got affinity with brands and products, and they tend to know more about the products than people that are sat in offices will ever know. We've got these tools, but are they the right tools to use for the audience that you want to speak to?
Welcome to PR in the Real World, the show where we cut through the corporate gloss and get gritty with the people facing everyday PR and comms challenges head on. So today, I'm really excited to welcome Katharine Topham from Vital Energy. As the marketing manager, Katharine's career has taken on a kind of wonderfully unexpected path. She studied zoology and then navigated construction sites in her early 20s and has brought forward some really cool and innovative marketing strategies in the energy sector. So in this episode, Katharine shares her journey, the art of understanding the end user, and how even the most unconventional career path can spark game-changing ideas. So if you're looking for insights on turning everyday challenges into opportunities, you're in the right place. Let's crack on. Hi, Katharine, and welcome to Viva. And
Thank you for having me.
Now, your career has been anything but typical. You've started in zoology and then moved into construction and now marketing for an energy company. What were the kind of key moments in that journey? Just talk us through from that start.
Yeah, when you read it like that, it does sound quite strange. But so zoology, it was an academic degree. Went to Durham University, doing all the right things, ticking the boxes. You know, being a good daughter, and getting a nice academic degree. But then as I was going through that, I could understand it, I could do it, I was interested in animals and the environment and the world around us and that type of thing. But it wasn't until my final year when we had a choice between either spending 3 months in a lab doing an experiment or being part of a business enterprise project and developing a biological product that we would then market and sell. So really, that was, obviously, I chose the business enterprise project because being in a lab would have probably killed me, trying to be quiet and for that length of time. So what we actually did, I was part of a team and we developed a drink for pregnant women. And I was in charge of marketing for that. And that's when I thought, yeah, this is what I love. This is what I want to do. And the drink, we based it very much on innocent drinks, which at the time was really new and up and coming, the chatty, informal sort of style, which is actually really commonplace now. But back then, it wasn't that long ago, but it was quite new. Things like the banana line, fruit towers, all of that type of thing. And yeah, that was a real kind of, this is what I want to do.
Proper sliding doors moment, that.
Yeah, gosh, yeah, just having that experience and being in that environment. And, at university we had the opportunity to do like a Dragon's Den pitch and that type of thing. And then so I knew that I wanted to go into marketing and looking at jobs and things like that, and found a role called an end user specialist for urban industrial tools, which I thought ticked all the boxes. And in essence, that was, the role was driving a van around construction sites. Very, very basic, simple marketing skills where you'd go on with your bag of tools and you'd be asking tradesmen, joiners, plumbers, whoever was on site, why they were using the tools they were using, why wouldn't they use our tools, and just going out and speaking to people. And then from there, it was a case of developing my career into more of a market research role, and then in later years into more generalist kind of marketing management roles.
Interesting. I mean, that thinking back to that early time then, and, going onto construction sites, you'll have been in your early 20s, I guess, then, and a whole new experience for you, and getting to see the whites of the eyes of the potential customer.
Yeah.
Was it nerve-wracking? Was it daunting?
Absolutely nerve-wracking. Oh my gosh, I don't think I could do it now.
Really?
Yeah. But as a 21-year-old, you're full of confidence, and you think you can take on the world, don't you? So, it was. I was the first woman on this team, which was brilliant. The opportunities that I got. I mean, even the clothes I was wearing were men's clothes, men's steel toe cap boots, men's cargo trousers, men's polo shirt, things like that. But actually, what I found was that the guys, because it was majority of guys on construction sites at that time, they would open up more to me and I'd find more insightful kind of knowledge and ideas really about the tools and how we could develop them more than my peers, my male colleagues. It was interesting. So I could almost use the kind of, I don't know nothing about these tools, obviously, and kind of play on that a little bit, and you'd get more and more and more insight from people.
Could you lean into any of the kind of zoology stuff that you'd done at that point, or had that
not
been
really? I must admit, not really. I think it was more of a, I suppose, from a zoology, it's science, it's investigative, you're interested, you're inquisitive, and that type of thing. And then, not really. It was definitely, it's funny, you spend 3 years at university, and it was the last 6 months that I think had the most impact, really.
Just thinking back to that period in time when you were, on going into that environment that was completely different to what you'd been used to. What do you think you kind of learned in that period?
I think it's that we're adaptable, and that that everyone is people, and people are open to share their experiences. If you just ask the question, everyone has got affinity with brands and products and services, and and they tend to know more about the products than people that are sat in offices will ever know, because they're using it on a day-to-day basis. They're coming up against it on a day-to-day basis. And I think it's just about making sure you don't pursue knowledge, and you actually go and you actually speak to those end users. And also, when I say go to speak, you need to actually physically go, in my experience. So you need to go onto that construction site, or within the energy industry that I work in now, we have resident liaison meetings, and that is where you get the real insight. Obviously, there's online, there's lots of different market research tools that you can do. But if you go into their environment and actually speak to them and make that effort to do that, they appreciate the effort, I suppose, but also they're comfortable, and they're more likely to share that insight.
Yeah, it's a really interesting mix. We're surrounded by data now and data points, aren't we? But that human touch is really important. Talk to me. So you got to this kind of early stage of your career. So what happened next? Where did you go to next? And
so from there, it was from being on construction sites, it was about developing. I really liked the market research side of things at that point, and it was I went into more formal market research roles with construction products for Saint-Gobain and really quite big construction products companies, where we were then doing research on different types of plaster or insulation, or even, Artex was one of the brands that I worked on. Just from there, it developed into a market research role, and then using that knowledge, then developing it into kind of a generalist role. So I took roles where I was the only marketing person, so head of marketing of a person of one. And there it was looking at wider campaigns. So how do you use that insight in practice? How do you influence everyone in that customer journey?
You've talked a lot already about understanding the end user and getting face-to-face time with the end user wherever that's possible. Just tell us a little bit more about why you think that's important and where you think some people go wrong.
Yeah, I suppose it's in marketing, I suppose in the sectors we are. We need to ask that question, who are our customers? And, there could be a number of different customers or stakeholders in that journey. And often, when we're up against it, when we're up against timescales, we can focus quite heavily in on the direct customers who are effectively paying the invoices. So if you need to produce a client presentation or a bid proposal or whatever the requests are that come through, you focus in on that client, but that client has customers and that client has end users, and you need to understand the role of the end user in impact on the direct customer, your client. And so it's where businesses tend to go wrong is really focusing in too much, maybe not too much, but focusing in on the direct customer and not appreciating what the end customer feels, wants and needs.
Talk to me about Vital Energy and what that is and what it does and where it's based and so on.
Yeah, so the head office is in Blackburn. It's effectively a renewable energy business. It's built on over 30 years' experience of heat networks. And a heat network effectively is where you've got a central source of energy, so an energy centre or a plant room, and then that energy, heat, hot water, is distributed to homes through insulated pipes. And then from there, residents would be metered or billed based on that energy. So our clients can be everyone from housing associations, local authorities, the NHS, universities, citywide heat network zones, and it's heat networks are actually seen as one of the key ways that the government are going to meet the 2050 net zero target.
It's interesting. I until we'd met, I'd never really understood what they were, and I hadn't really heard much about them. But you said that they're a growing thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, you more than likely, in fact, and positively, will have been in buildings that have been supplied by heat networks. Definitely.
Interesting. And obviously there you've got that situation where you've got your direct customer, which might be a local council,
yeah,
but the actual end user is a resident or
yeah, very diverse. Yeah, and also the way it works is that whoever owns the energy source, so whoever owns the energy centre or the plant, is the person that sets the tariff.
Right.
Or person or organisation, rather, that sets the tariff. So companies like Vital Energy will then come in and provide a service for the metering and billing of that energy. So we don't necessarily impact on the tariff. So when you think about the end user, you need to think about how you can add value.
Yeah. That's interesting. So would the end user even be aware of Vital Energy on this process? Would they see your name on the bills and so on?
Absolutely, yeah. So we would provide the customer service, the brands, the logo, like you say, is all on the bills, the communications, the tariff updates, all of that.
But you haven't got a lever on the actual thing that as an end user, I'd be interested in the price. You've got that set with the customer, as it were.
That's it, exactly. So, our direct customer will set the tariff.
Yeah.
So we then need to think, right, okay, we can't influence that tariff, but we want the end user to have the best experience of living on that heat network, because we want heat networks to grow. So it's around thinking about the first thing is we go out and we've spoken to end users to understand what do they want to know, what is their drivers, what is their crunch points, and some of the things that we've found is that when we looked at the demographic of our end users, high percentage of them are not English native speakers. So we needed to think about, okay, translation and what else do they want to know? How do they want to get in touch with us? They might not want to sit and telephone our customer service team. They may want to send a WhatsApp in this day and age. Send a WhatsApp. Know that if you've got an issue with your bill or you want to arrange a service, you send a WhatsApp, and it's more convenient.
Yeah. So it's that rounder picture that how do you physically go about doing that? Is it a case of literally knocking on doors, having focus groups, and how does it take place?
So it's from a number of different things. So one, our customer service team, they've given a real insight in terms of what the questions that people are asking, what information they want to know. We've got resident liaison meetings where we can hear directly what the issues are, and then it's about developing the right communications and in the right tone of voice as well. So in the past, we've communicated to residents in a similar way that we would communicate to direct customers.
Yeah. And
that, has not always been received well or even been received because, like I say, if English isn't their first language, they may use or ask a relative, a son, a daughter, to manage their account on their behalf. But by developing the communication channels that are dedicated to the end user, it enables them to actually get the information to understand. Like you've said, not many people know what a heat network is. So, we've developed animations to describe in simple terms what a heat network is, how their home is heated, how the different charges on their bill, what they mean, why they're there, if they've got additional requirements, if they find themselves in a vulnerable situation, what support's available. But all that information needs to be given in the right way, with the right tone of voice to show empathy as well. Because if you've got, heat is important. It's a basic human right to be warm and safe. So it's important that we show that empathy. And if you've got an issue with your heating, you need it fixed and you need someone to care.
Yeah. No, that's quite true. I mean, it sounds like it's quite a communications challenge, all this. Is it a broader challenge than you had anticipated before you moved into that industry?
Oh, definitely. So I was very much construction based, obviously, and very much, right, okay, there's different people in the customer journey. You may have a main contractor, you may have an architect, you've got a joiner or a plumber, and that's very much kind of still B2B. A joiner wants a good hand tool that it's an extension of his hand, and he can work. With this is the difference between kind of B2B and B2C and consumer, and also the emotive element of someone's home being nice, being warm, being comfortable, is quite unique, really, to what I've had before.
I guess what you're trying to do is build empathy and trust. I think you said empathy earlier, and trust is a key one as well.
Absolutely.
And that must be a tricky one then, given the restrictions that you've got in terms of how do you go about building trust in that environment?
I think it's around, firstly, where are the touch points with that customer? So first, it's the customer service team. When they ring through, ensuring they're fully skilled, to deal with situations that they'll come across, to show empathy, to be accurate in what the information they give, and just to be that person at the end of the telephone, and then backing that up. So the communications, what is written is clear. It's not got jargon. It shows that we understand. We're putting ourselves in your shoes. This is, these are the services that we're providing you, and this is the support that we can provide, and that we understand that things change and life happens, and we can direct people to the right support organisations if they need it.
It's very kind of human-centric comms, that, isn't it?
Very much so.
But and probably goes back to that innocent smoothie time, not as flippant and fun, but not corporate and standoffish.
Absolutely. As part of this whole project that I've described, we've looked at even the colours and the imagery that we've used. So Vital Energies, orange, black, grey, glossy images of, projects that we've worked on. But with the brands that we've developed, the customer focus brands, they're much softer.
Yeah.
We've used colours like purples and pinks and softer greys, or softened the orange, more white space, that type of thing. Much what you would see on a more, consumer type brand. We've used graphics instead of glossy images. And just a lot softer than what. So it gives that overall sense and feel of something that's dedicated to them, that's tailored to them, that makes them feel, okay, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, so authentic and accessible and so on. In any industry where you tendering for public sector work, you've got to be cognizant these days of social value and so on.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's something that's quite big at Vital as well.
Huge, yeah.
And how do you tick that box but make it real, that social value box? How do you bring that alive? And is the marketing department involved in that kind of?
Oh, absolutely. So I think it's going back to that end user and that customer journey and that value chain to say what is social value for that specific project or development. So, sat in our nice marketing office, you might think, we'll do a community garden. That would be nice. They could have picnics and benches and all the rest of it. But then when you look at the reality, there can be, these projects could be in inner cities or areas where if you put a communal garden, that could be a magnet for crime, and they don't, that community do not want a community garden. So it might be that they want other support, so like food, support with food banks or support with local schools. And then it's looking wider than what we do on a project basis, but as a whole company, we have a whole strategy called climate education, where everyone within the business is empowered to go out and speak to local schools. And we've got a whole raft of materials, presentations, games, top trumps, and all sorts of different things that we can then engage the next generation into the renewable energy industry.
And it sounds like that you're looking at that bigger picture as well, at that very kind of like local level, but also trying to be a kind of force and a voice within the energy industry and obviously trying to get a voice through to government as well. So
Absolutely.
It's quite a wide-ranging role that you've got.
Well, yes, exactly. So with heat networks, it's widely publicised, the government's UK net zero target of 2050. And there's lots of different technologies, wind farms, solar, heat pumps. Heat networks at the moment is around 3% of the energy use, off my top of my head. Don't quote me on that. But the government, see that actually that could rapidly increase up to about 20% over the coming years. And it's, as a leading supplier within the heat network industry, we do see that is one of our priorities.
For someone like myself who was blithely unaware of what heat networks were, there's an education piece to do here if the government's going to reach its targets.
Oh, absolutely. And, heat networks are one of the key ways that the government will hit its target. And as a business, we're working with government and the Heat Network Industry Council, to promote heat networks, to make it front of mind for government ministers and investors across the business.
So, Katharine, we're talking about end users, and you've mentioned getting into the psyche and really understanding their pain points and issues. But what I'd be interested to understand what particular tools or channels have worked the best, or what you've found that have either surprised you or gone, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so the main one that we've used is developing a dedicated consumer website. So it's one place, it's got all the information, it's got a dynamic search, so they can put in a question, whatever question that is, and it'll pull that answer and then any related questions through. And it's on there, you've got animations. So as we've discussed, they may not know what a heat network is. So it shows that in a real simple terms, how their home is heated, what's on a bill, what the tariff means, that type of thing. We've also got animations on understanding your bill, and it's just to take out the mystery of it, because if you don't understand something, you're going to be suspicious around it. On the website as well, because we've found that there's a high number of our customers who don't speak English as a first language, we've added a translation function to that, so they can press a button and the whole website is translated into their preferred language. So that means that they can actually get the information that they need, which sounds like a very basic need. But often these customers are asking family members, sons, daughters, even neighbours, friends, to manage their energy account on their behalf. And again, if you don't have that information, you're going to be suspicious, you're going to be nervous, you're going to be thinking, is this bill right? Yeah. Am I paying the right amount that I should be? So that's been really good. And then aside from that as well, we've developed a smart app, so residents can see their usage, similar to many energy businesses across the sector. They can see their energy usage, they can pay for their energy use, they can think, oh, okay, I've used a bit much in the past week, or so I might need, my usage is going to go up. And, they can just keep track of their energy more.
It's interesting. I mean, and all of this obviously comes at an expense to the business. Mm-hmm. And given what you said about you not having any lever on the price, mm-hmm. Why does the business invest all this time, effort, energy, brain power to do this?
Because it by supporting our end users, we're providing that service to our direct customers. So if our end users, or their end users rather, are supported and happy, then they get less of a headache, basically. And, things run a lot smoother. And fundamentally, it's the right and morally responsible thing to do. Heat is a basic right, and understanding that, and also promote by helping customers have a great experience of living on a heat network. As that grows, it's going to support the wider heat network industry as well.
I guess it's important as well for the reputation of Vital Energy when, in a competitive market. It's a differentiator when you're up against other network suppliers.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that piece on reputation management, that's where the real business case comes for developing an end user marketing strategy. Because it's, end users, they can go on Trustpilot and, all the different review sites and post their experiences. And then when you're going for a bid or new work, our direct clients can see that, and it's important to get right. So, you're not going to get it right all the time.
No.
So the way that you manage that is by not burying your head in the sand. Yeah. Managing those reviews, reviewing those reviews, and then investigating them, replying to those reviews, but replying after you've investigated as well. So it's not just a generic, apologies that you've not had a great experience. We genuinely investigate those reviews that come through that aren't at our standards. And by doing that, it shows another level of, we're here even if things go wrong.
And you presumably can feed that back into the business. We're doing some work with a major multinational on their employee experience.
Right, okay.
And the business case there is that they can sometimes find some of the blockages, the challenges that the employees are having as, those incremental gains to improve the business performance.
Yeah, it could be quick wins, especially in that use case. So by asking, and also, ask people their opinions, ask what has gone wrong, and quite often those, I suppose, complaints or negative reviews can turn into a positive experience. We've had ones where, it's come through as a negative complaint, and we've ended up working with those residents to develop the websites, that I've described.
Interesting. So if we kind of reflect back on your career, what advice would you give to your 21-year-old self, fresh from a zoology degree at Durham?
I think at the time you're in exactly the right place. Going from formal dinners and all the trappings of Durham, swanning around in a gown and all the rest of it, to then bash, you're on a construction site in steel-toe cat boots. You're in exactly the right place. It's not a swish London marketing office, but I was there, I was getting the skills, I was getting the experience. You are where you need to be, and stop overthinking. Go with it. It's going to be a fun ride. But then also, I think to be aware that not everyone in the room knows more than you. Yeah. And even if they do give the impression that, they do, to, speak up, share your voice, and it's valid.
Yeah, you've got a valid opinion, and I guess the lesson from that early day still lives on. That this thread that you've had of understand the customer still chimes today.
Absolutely. So, the work that we do with residents and understanding, what are their needs, what do they want to feel, what do they what their drivers, what are their concerns. Like you say, we can't affect the price, but there's so much more around that we can affect, and that marketing and the communications that we provide have a real impact on that. How people, the same piece of information can be delivered in two very different ways, and it's making sure that we get the right tone and voice. And you only know what the right tone, voice, channel it is by asking that question.
Interesting. So, Katharine, what's next for you in your career, and what excites you about the kind of future of the industry that we're in?
Oh, it's always changing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like I need a crystal ball to really answer that question, but I think the marketing industry, the PR and comms industry, there's so many channels and new ways to communicate. It's interesting, and it's interesting to think, right, okay, we've got these tools, but are they the right tools to use? You know, again, is it the right thing for the audience that you want to speak to? In the heat network and renewable energy business, it's really getting exciting. We've got regulation that's coming, so Ofgem will be regulating heat networks. So we're just working through that at the moment, and obviously that will have an impact on consumer communications and what we need to do around that. And I think it's a really exciting time.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been a real pleasure and some real insights.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time out there.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to PR in the Real World. If you've enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you could subscribe to the podcast and leave us a quick review. Your support really helps spread the word and reach more marketing and PR professionals just like you. And don't forget to share this podcast with your colleagues or anyone who'd benefit from the insights we share. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time for more tips, strategies and real-world stories from the PR frontlines.